You've probably driven through Coffee County, Georgia without a second thought. Maybe you were heading south toward Florida or cutting across the flatlands of southeast Georgia on your way somewhere else. But here's what most people miss. The very road you might have crossed to get there is the reason Coffee County exists at all. That road has a name, and it belongs to the man the county itself is named after. Stick with me, because this one goes deeper than you'd expect. Coffee County, Georgia sits in the southeastern corner of the state, roughly halfway between Macon and the Florida line. It was officially created on February 9, 1854, carved out of four surrounding counties: Clinch, Irwin, Telfair, and Ware. The county seat is Douglas, a small city that sits at the heart of the county and carries the name of one of the most famous politicians of the 19th century. The population today sits around 43,000 people. Not enormous, but not a ghost town either. This is real, working Georgia. Before any of that happened, before the county lines, before Douglas, before the courthouse, this land belonged to the Muskogee, also known as the Creek people. They were the original inhabitants of what would become Coffee County, Georgia, and their presence is still written into the landscape in ways most people don't notice. The Ocmulgee River, the Occamee River, the Okefenokee Swamp. Those names are Muskogee. By 1827, a brutal combination of local conflicts and forced treaties had driven the Creek people from the region. That removal opened the door to white migration, and settlers moved in fast. Land was cleared, cotton and tobacco plantations went up, churches and schools followed, the bones of the county were being laid down, and enslaved people were doing the labor that made it all possible. That's the foundation. And you can't understand Coffee County without standing on it, honestly. Now, here's where the story gets genuinely interesting, and it all circles back to that road. The man the county is named after is John E. Coffee Planter, state legislator, U.S. congressman from Georgia, and by all accounts, a man who knew how to move through difficult terrain. He served in Congress from 1833 to 1836, but his most lasting physical mark on this part of Georgia wasn't political, it was geographical. Coffee built what became known as the Old Coffee Road, a route constructed to move troops and supplies down to Florida during the Indian Wars of that era. That road cut straight through the wilderness of South Georgia, and it was significant enough that a century later, in 1954, it still formed part of the boundary between Berrien and Coffee counties. Think about that. A road one man ordered built in the early 1800s became a literal county line that held for 100 years. Coffee died in 1836, the same year he finished his congressional term, but the road outlasted him by generations. When the county was formally named in his honor in 1854, it wasn't just ceremonial. It was geography confirming what history already knew. Douglas was established as the county seat in 1858, named, somewhat curiously, after U.S. Senator Stephen Douglas of Illinois, the same man who debated Abraham Lincoln and lost the presidency to him. In 1888, Douglas consisted of 6 houses, 1 small store, and a log courthouse. From that almost comically modest beginning, it grew into a functioning regional hub. South Georgia State College eventually opened in Douglas, becoming the first state-supported college under the university system of Georgia. A genuine Georgia first that the county doesn't always get credit for. The railroad came through, industries followed, and the county slowly built an identity rooted equally in its frontier past and its agricultural present. What Coffee County, Georgia is today is harder to summarize in a single image, but here's one that sticks with me. In 1954, exactly 100 years after the county's founding, the Georgia Historical Society put up a marker at the Douglas Courthouse commemorating Coffee County's creation. A century of history, recognized at the very building that replaced that first log courthouse. The road is still there. The rivers still carry their Muskogee names. And Douglas is still standing, still the county seat, still the heart of a place that most people blow right past without realizing they're crossing a boundary that a frontiersman drew with a road before the county even had a name. If Coffee County, Georgia surprised you, there are 158 more Georgia counties waiting. Subscribe to Georgia DNA. We're covering all 159, one story at a time, and none of them are what you expect.